the end of the day.
It's Mel.
And me. You wanna know
How we did it.
You wanna know how we do it. You wanna know
How we
we're
doing
doing
it.
Welcome to the Mel and Me podcast.
At the end of the day.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Episode 4. Back in the house.
In the house.
Mel and Me, the podcast, episode 4.
Yes.
Yeah, still working through this thing before we got started. Playing around with these mics and everything, trying to get everything straight. I'm going to focus more so on trying to aim my voice into this microphone here, because I realized last episode I spent a lot of time turned away and looking at you. For some reason, the last episode, it was really conversational between the two of us. And what was the episode again? Sprint or Marathon is what it was. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I guess it lent itself to more personalized conversation, more so interaction, between the two of us. Don't get stiff now. I see you sitting over there like
I'm just sitting.
So, you can loosen up. You can turn your head and look around. I know we got crappy mics and stuff for now. But we're gonna get some upgrades. We just need to grow the podcast to where it makes sense for us to invest in more expensive microphones. I mean, we didn't invested enough already.
For real.
Between the cameras and the mics and lights and laptop and all that kind of stuff. That stuff adds up
quickly.
But we'll get there. We'll have some nice fancy mics one day. Maybe we'll get a big huge following and stuff, and we can get some sponsorships and some donations and that kind of stuff. Speaking of which, feel free to like, subscribe, share, comment, all that kind of stuff, so that we can grow this thing. We think we have something good going here. I mean, let us know if you think we got something good. If you've enjoyed the content that you've partaken in thus far, feel free to reach out to us and let us know you appreciate it. And it's motivating for us. We're going to do it anyway. Because I think it's kind of fun. What you think? Yeah. It's been kind of fun thus far.
We don't have anything else to do anyways.
You may not have anything to do. I got a lot of stuff to do. I spend all the time doing this. Between the time we finish filming and all the editing that I have to do and artwork and everything, just doing everything. So, matter of fact, let me take a sip of my Moroccan tea.
Yes, it is good. I'm glad we received it, because it is coming in handy.
Who knows how much longer we're going to have it. We'll be having to go back to the...
we got 2 packs left.
Yeah. Then we'll be going to the regular herbal tea or whatever.
Yeah.
So this week, we're going to talk about something that I just kind of... I don't know. I've had conversations over the years with people, mostly women, that I've kind of gotten to this discussion about, and it's definitely a thing. I guess it hasn't so much been a thing with us, but we're going to talk about, as we stated last week, continuing this theme of this or that. I don't know how many more shows we're going to do with that, whereas this you can get with this or you can get with that. Like back in the day, I have all these goofy hip hop references from back in the 90s, I guess.
Right, I see.
But anyway, so this episode is going to be centered around separate or joint
bank accounts.
Not only bank accounts though, but primarily bank accounts.
That's really what it is.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to bring up, one thing I'm really feeling right now is the ambiance in the studio, and I don't know if it's because of the more warm, red amber kind of light thing that we have going here. right? So you got the, previously we have the purple and the blue lights, but today we kind of got this amber kind of theme going, and it just feels warm and it's cool. I guess looking at us on the monitor in front of us, I can kind of see us, and it's like I get a feel of the ambiance in the background and stuff. So it just kind of feels cool, Yeah. But anyway, so back to this whole thing, separate or joint. When it comes to bank accounts, when it comes to other things, various accounts, that you may have, or just doing business and stuff like that, always kind of got the sense of it being somewhat of a controversial kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with married couples, right?
Mm-hmm.
'Cause I've had conversations here and there over the years, and it's mostly been with women. And I don't know if it's a thing that's more so popular with women, like having hidden
Yes.
bank accounts and stuff like that.
Yes.
Well, I mean, what
I've been told
what's to that?
is, just in case if things don't work out, the man end up leaving, that she can have some money, put aside, that she'll still be able to take care of herself, because sometimes relationships don't work out. And that's one of the reasons. And then one of the other reasons is sometimes you're with a partner who don't necessarily manage money well. And so, but the number one reason is to have an account for a, take care of myself, if you will, if he's no longer here and decides he wants to leave and it just doesn't work out. That's the number one reason.
Yeah, and I've actually, most of the time when I've even heard women say, like, my mama always told me, you better have another account with some money that your husband don't know about, and I've heard that. I've had that told to me, and it always seems I've never had a man, really, when I think about it, I've never really had a man, professing to having like hidden bank accounts and stuff like that. It's always women that they got some pot of money somewhere that and I've heard of situations. I haven't heard anyone personally that I've known say this to me, but I've heard of situations where women went entire marriages, like for many, many years, where they had a hidden bank account that the husband never knew about. And then they broke up or whatever, and she had that money, or
Right.
It's like, to me though, when I think about that, it's like, so what do you do? Is it something that you just dip into here and there, or do you just have this fun that you just constantly just stacking money into, shuffling money away? How does that work? And it's not something that I've really gotten into too much. It's always
me
something
either.
that whenever I've had these discussions or these conversations with women, it's just kind of like, from my perspective, it's like, wow, because I always think about our situation and how we've kind of managed things. But yeah, that's typically the way it is. I've never had a man that I've known of that's been in a relationship or a marriage, especially with somebody, where they've spoken to, the need to have, a hidden account, not so much separate accounts, because I know people that maintain separate accounts. They don't bank together. She has her account, he has his bank account. That's where his payroll gets deposited into. Her payroll gets deposited into hers. She pay these bills in the household. He pays these bills in the household,
Right.
and that's the way they manage their marriage. And again, like we said before, what works for us may not necessarily work for the next person.
Exactly.
So, I fully get it. If a particular individual is with someone, and in the course of building their relationship, they've made it up in their minds that it's going to be best for them to operate in a certain manner financially when it comes to their partner, then, hey, there you go. Then that's what works.
Right.
But obviously for us, we kind of adopted a different approach, which we'll get to. I think it's quite obvious
Right.
how we operate. But so it's always seemed to be something that's been a little bit controversial, because some people, they just feel like, they can't trust their partner
Yeah.
from a financial perspective, which to that, I then say, if you're going into the situation and you feel like you can't trust a person,
Right.
that doesn't bode well, right?
Yeah.
But it is what it is. I mean, people's relationships, they place, I guess, different levels of importance. Like certain people's relationships, they place importance on certain things as opposed to, let's just say, the financial thing. Maybe the financial or the banking thing is, priority number 3 or 4.
Right.
And not 1 or 2. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
I guess
But I will say with several of the women that I've had a conversation with it about, in those instances, the male was making, substantially more money, than she was. So again,
Okay.
it's of that mindset. Okay, if this is, and then they adopt that attitude early on. I didn't get into any heavy type of conversation. Hey, is this how you grew up? Did your mom do it or whatever? But that was a mindset that they adopted early on into the relationship. And so again, if he was to leave and her salary is not of the same level as his, she wants to be able to support herself if for some reason the relationship doesn't last. So it's taking a little bit here, not a substantial amount. If it's $100, a paycheck, or $200 a paycheck, but then he's not knowing about it. So then she has a nest egg, if you will, to be able to carry herself on financially if in fact he does leave. Because guess what? In those relationships, the guy did end up leaving.
Right.
Fortunately.
So it's not so much a means of managing their finances as it is her kind of tucking away a nest egg so she can have things don't work out.
Exactly.
Which I think that's kind of shady, but
yeah.
Especially given the fact that let's just say he makes more money, and as far as how we roll, it doesn't matter who makes more money.
Right.
It's all going into the same pot. But
yeah,
I'm just
that's
saying,
my attitude. It's all going into the same pot, and you're essentially, if you're taking money, putting it away, to me, that's still taking it away from the household. Because if you're taking that money and you're putting it away, it would be different as, okay, I'm with this guy right now. Okay, I now see that he doesn't necessarily manage money well. So, let me just have a separate account over here so I can ensure that the bills are paid. Unfortunately, you may have people in relationships where maybe he, spends excessively on certain things. You may have people that like to gamble.
Or maybe she does.
Or maybe he does, whoever.
Maybe
what I'm saying? It could be her, it could be him.
Right.
And so to ensure that bills and stuff are being paid, hey, let me go ahead and set this account up over here so I can ensure, worst case scenario, we're still able to, meet our liabilities every month. So I get it from that perspective. Because other than that, you're taking away from the household. If that money is not being used to be able to, cover, your liabilities in the household, it's just you saving it so that, in case if he leaves, okay, if he doesn't leave, you 20 years in, what do you do with that money?
Right.
Because then now, if something comes up, then you have to end up telling them. So it's just all, I don't know. It's just, I've always just kind of looked at it weird, but that's just me.
Okay. So let's just kind of get into what kind of helped to shape my mindset as far as this whole separate versus joint thing. We obviously, got together young, got married at 22. I was 22.
Yeah.
You were 21.
21.
And so, we got in early on. We did the joint thing, right? We've been joint from the very beginning. Been with the same bank since that time. Now, I mean, it's been like 30. Well, I was with the bank
years,
obviously
34
before
years.
I married you, right?
Yeah, 34
And
years.
so you kind of inherited that benefit, by marrying. And we and we've always been joint in all of our accounts, and all however many bank accounts we have. How many bank accounts we have with our bank? Probably about 7 or 8.
Yeah.
And then you count the brokerage accounts.
Yeah.
I mean, all of our accounts are joint. Brokerage accounts, bank accounts. We probably got about 10 bank accounts.
Yeah.
But all joint. All joint. We all, we enter into everything together. Always have been.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, when I came into our relationship, and you might remember, I came into the relationship with a charge off. I had a charge off of a bad debt from an American Express that I got when I was like 18 years old, when I was my first year college student, like so many of us do. You go to college, and for some reason these banks show up and they give you a credit card application. Just sign your name and you got a credit card. And I had an American Express. And some of y'all out there remember, because I took y'all to dinners on that American Express. We were up in Bennigan's and Giordano's.
I wasn't one of them. I don't recall going to dinner on that American Express.
Your people was.
I know. I was not included in that. I just want to put that on the record.
Yeah, your people was. Mm-hmm. She was in on it early on. Yeah. She know who she is too. Yeah. And some of my boys and girlfriends back during that time. It was just crazy, man. But so I ended up, and the thing was, that debt was like $730, I think it was. Which
$790.
Oh, $790. Oh, you remember? Yeah. Man, $790. That was a lot of money.
It was a lot back then.
Back then, you talking, 1988, 89 when I incurred that debt. Yeah. That was a lot of money that I just did not have, right? Mm-hmm. In fact, that when I remember it got to the point when I was getting ready to go into the military, right? I was so damn glad, because I was getting, we still had the phones that was on the wall and stuff. They'd be ringing, calling your house. It's like, can I speak to, I'm like, he doesn't live here. Debt collectors be calling collection agencies and stuff, man. And I was in between. I had just finished up my first year of college, and I was trying to decide on whether or not I was going to go back. Just because of that whole situation there, and I had the option of I was entertaining going into the military. And I was like that. I think that kind of pushed me over pushed me over the edge. I was like, you know what, I'm gone. I can't pay the $790 back. And so they eventually charged it off. American Express charged it off, and of course it was on my credit report for many years thereafter. And so, and you don't know this, and I never actually said this to you, but when we got together, and you'll tell your story in a minute, but one thing that was percolating in my mind, I was like, okay, we're gonna get married. And I know, I was looking at your situation, I was like, I got this charge off. So I know both of us together, because remember, we had to buy that car.
Oh, yeah.
Because when we were in Connecticut, after we got married, and then I sent for you, and we were getting ready to move down to Southeast Georgia, when the boat got stationed down there, we needed a car, because that car that I bought from the auction.
Oh.
Remember the car that I bought from the auction?
Oh, yes.
Right.
Yes.
It overheated on the way on I-95 after we got to New York. I had to pull off to the side of the road.
Smoking.
And let the hood up to let it cool off. And I was like, we just got to make it to Connecticut. We had about another hour and a half left to drive. I was like,
I remember that vividly.
Get some air in the car.
Embarrassing.
Let it cool the engine off, and we'll push a little bit further, right?
Yes.
And so, we needed, at that point, life got like really serious for us, because we were getting ready to live together for the first time as a married couple. And we had to make it. We had to make it from Connecticut to Georgia. There was no way in hell we were going to make it to Georgia in that car. There's no way we would have made it across country in that car. And so we were faced with having to then go, even with both of our financial situation at the time. And I wasn't, making, a lot of money. And we just had your obligations. And so, but we needed to get a new car. And so I was in the mindset thinking at that point, I was like, okay, it was clear to me that I was going to need the two of us to make things happen in the coming years. So that was part of my calculation. Like when we decided to get married and stuff like that, I was like, I'm going ahead. And that also had a lot to do with why I was didn't protest too much with helping you pay your bills and help you manage stuff back then, because I knew I was going to be bringing you into the fold, and I was like, she got to be straight, because I know my stuff was messed up at the time.
Right.
So those were all calculations that I was making, and so I was committed going in to this whole joint thing. I was like, we're gonna do everything, and we're gonna do everything together going, because I knew and I saw then that we were stronger together as a financial unit, right? Even though at the time you weren't working,
Right.
but you had that credit,
Yeah.
you know, and so I needed that credit in good standing, right? So that it could offset what I had done, right? So that was kind of a scheme, if you will.
Yeah, interesting.
But that's what it was.
Oh.
So that's my story. Now, given how I just spoke to my charge off and how your credit cards came into things.
Right.
So your story is what? At a high level.
At a high level with mine's, I mean, like you said, I was in college. They immediately, and I don't think they do this to this day now. I think that was something back then that they were doing.
Because they learned their lesson.
They learned the lesson.
Burned.
Yes. So they were sending me all these credit cards. Hey, just sign your name. You get these cards. And I signed my name like 13 times. All these credit cards.
So you came into our marriage with how many credit cards?
13, all maxed out.
All maxed out.
Every last one of them maxed out.
We'll get to details.
Yeah,
of that in another episode.
I wasn't thinking along the lines of you. Oh yeah, hey, we could just work this out together. I mean, number one, I don't think I knew about your charge at the time. Okay. I don't think I knew about that at that moment. But I wasn't thinking. My thought process was, oh my God, I'm about to go into this relationship with all this debt. That was what I was thinking. I'm like, is this man gonna want to be bothering me? Because I'm coming in with all these maxed out credit cards, right. And that's why you said immediately from the gate, hey, you cannot come in with all of this. We're gonna have to get this cleaned up. And that's when you asked me, you want to do a wedding or you want to get these cards paid off?
Right.
Which one do you want to do?
Right.
You said you can keep. He said, there's no reason for you to have all these credit cards. You can keep 2. I kept 2 credit cards. I said I would rather pay off the debt than have a big marriage and a big wedding. I said, because that to me that'd just be money wasted. I don't want to. I wanted to quickly get rid of that debt, because in my mind I was thinking I was just happy you still want to be with me with all that debt I was coming in with, because like you said, I wasn't working and I just was charging up. So that was my mindset, was like, thank God he wasn't looking like I ain't about to be with her with all this debt.
Right.
So that's what I was thinking.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, so we went in, with a building mindset, and that's something that the decision to build with somebody, especially when you marry somebody, if you're not in a building mode, then what are you doing?
Right.
And so, I tried to. I was, thinking long term, and I was like, we're gonna get this right. I knew it was gonna be, some tough sledding for us, starting out. But I figured if we just buckle down and and just establish a certain level of discipline with things, that we would be okay. And fortunately, being in the military, even though I wasn't making a lot of money, the lifestyle, and I guess what we had around us, the foundation, if you will, I think it put us in a decent position to be able to do that. So, one thing that I think, agreed on from the very beginning, as far as our relationship goes, is what it kind of would be based off of. What, in other words, and I alluded to this earlier, what do I see as our priorities? And I think, with us, I think you can characterize our relationship primarily with 2 things at the top, and this is something that I kind of feel I can be unapologetic about, because it's worked for us, and I think it's beneficial for any couple, any married couple in our situation, and that is that. Number one, I think our relationship has been based on friendship, first and foremost.
That's the foundation.
With a close second, with that next thing being a business relationship.
Yes.
Because I know I hear all the time, people, when you ask people people who say have been with somebody for many, many years and they never get married.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
We got people in our family.
Mm-hmm.
We have friends, associates, people throughout our lives, that we've known and interacted with who that is the case. And you always get that famous statement of, it ain't nothing but a piece of paper.
Yep, I've heard that.
Why do I need to do this? And even in the present generation, you find that people are not getting married as much.
Right.
People are shacking up, living together, doing whatever, and they just like, oh, it ain't nothing but a piece of paper. Why do I need that? It ain't gonna make any difference. Well, it makes a big difference.
Yeah.
It makes a big, huge difference when you are trying to get stuff done.
Yeah.
When I talk about trying to get stuff done, I'm talking about serious stuff.
Yeah.
And from a legacy perspective, when it's time for you to leave here, as in die, we see how much of a difference it'll make.
Yeah.
When you start accumulating assets and those types of things, it makes a huge difference. And not only that, we've seen in our own situation that you just treat it differently.
Yeah.
Our society is structured as such, to where when you are a business entity as a husband and wife,
right,
things just flow differently for you.
Yeah. That's why I tell people all the time, I've always been of that mindset to have the foundation, and to me the foundation is the friendship, because it will allow you, when things do come up in the marriage, if there's issues or whatever to come up, you can fall back on that friendship. And I also say that as far as from the business perspective, if you treat the marriage like a business, if you have your own business, if you don't put anything into that business is not going to grow. And that's just how I look at it. If you want your business to grow, you're going to put everything that you have into it to allow it to expand, to get bigger. And that's how we've always kind of operated, which is what allow us to continue to have a strong relationship to this day, is because of those very principles.
Yeah, and we've definitely been stronger, as a unit financially. And again, it doesn't matter whether it's been me well, you never made more money than me. So I was about to say it doesn't matter whether or not you were making more money or I made more money. But I guess where my mind was going was those times, excuse me, in a relationship where you've had to pick up the slack, I guess, so to speak, or where say, a particular time period when I had to take that pay cut that I was talking about in episode 1.
Yes.
And you chose to go back to work. You went back to work to make sure that you would, help give us that boost that we needed, especially given the fact that I was going through, health issues at the time and everything. Right. And so, and so I guess that's what I was thinking of when I was saying that.
Yeah.
But that business relationship, man, and that encompasses a lot.
It really does.
It encompasses a whole lot, man, because there are things that, like, when I think, okay, so let's just look at the, we'll get into it in a second. But when I think of that, I remember how back early on, and many, many years ago, I kind of spoke to this, and I'm glad to have been able to do this, and that things are still this way. But one thing that I've always took great pride and comfort in is the fact that, like I say all the time, my goal has always been to never know when I get paid. Right? So, like I always told you from the very beginning, I'm never going to be the type of person that I'm going to be concerned about where's the money, when am I getting paid, stuff like that. Because if I'm thinking about when it is I'm getting paid, that means that we're having money challenges, right? If I need to be looking to, oh man, I can't wait till that paycheck hit next week.
Right. Yeah.
That means that we're in a bad way.
Yeah.
And so that's why when I entrusted to you from the very beginning, once I really got a chance to see and appreciate your skills from a domestic financial management perspective, I was able to pull back and say, you know what, I'm just going to turn this thing over to her, let her manage these accounts. We can have our money pooled together. No worries. I don't even have to be concerned about it because I know things are tight. As long as I can go to the ATM,
right,
and pull out, $20, $30, $50, $100, if I can go to that ATM and pull that money out and it's going to be there, then I'm cool.
Right.
I don't even, and you know this. Most of the time, on occasions when I ask, I don't even know, and I don't keep up when I even get paid.
Sometimes you be forgetting. You like, is it my
I
pay
forget.
week?
Exactly. All the time.
Yeah.
Because I've never kept up with it, right?
Yeah.
It's never something I've had to be concerned about because I know every single penny, every single red cent,
Every dime.
that comes into this house is gonna
Every dime.
so and it's cool with me because fortunately, and as I continue to get older, I become more comfortable with not feeling the need really to access money to do this, except for things like you stated. I do have costly interest and stuff like that, right?
Yes.
But other than that, but typically, but again, along with that, those endeavors are for what purpose though? It's not me just squandering money.
Oh,
See what I'm saying? You're not seeing me.
Mm-mm.
I've had one pair of Air Jordans in my life, and I got them on discount from the Navy Exchange back in like 1993 or 4, something like that. With a Jordan 4, 3 or 4, whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm not getting ready to go out and squander on clothes or any of that kind of stuff. So that's just the way it's been.
Yeah.
So but yeah, man. So I had no problem, turning that over to you, man, and you've managed it flawlessly, man. It's like I don't even want to know when my paycheck's there, and frankly, you could rob me blind. You really could. You could. Matter of fact, you could have a secret account somewhere right about now. You don't have any secret accounts anywhere?
Nope.
Okay.
I do not.
Let's hope not.
No need to.
Okay, that's good. No,
No
you
need to.
really have no need to because you got full control of everything. Anyway.
Right.
I don't even keep up with stuff. I just want to be able to pull out that bank card or whatever and swipe it, and it clears. Other than that,
Yeah.
and of course, the way that we do things, whenever we're going to do something, there's a certain process that occurs anyway. So and that'll be another episode. So so I just kind of see this whole thing consisting of a few components, and those components being this separate or joint thing from a conceptual standpoint. I kind of place it in terms of family, credit, wealth, and legacy. I see all those 4 pieces tied into this whole thing, of why doing everything in a joint fashion, how it has helped us to get to where we are.
Yes.
On a solid foot. So our approach has been as we described earlier, right? And that's our bank accounts are all joint.
All joint.
There may be one account still out there, I think, that I didn't have access to. That was something that we changed recently, right? Because you had to set it up for some special reason, and I didn't have access.
Yeah,
to that
for that.
account.
Yeah, for one of those other checking. But then I got it did the paperwork for you to be able to have access to that one. I forgot why that one was set up like that.
Set up.
Yeah, I can't even remember because that one was a couple of years ago. I mean, you knew about it, you just wasn't able to see it when you logged in. But yeah,
And I didn't care about it because I knew it had a specific purpose. So it wasn't a big deal. So we got that straight. But all of our accounts, all of our savings, checking, like I said, we probably got 7 or 8.
Yeah.
We probably got 7 or 8 checking and savings accounts, different ones.
Yeah.
With our bank, and then our couple of few brokerage accounts for investing and stuff. Those are all joint as well. We get those set up, which again, you just want to make sure that if you have these assets out there,
right,
you don't want to have I could drop dead tomorrow,
right,
and I don't want you to have any problems.
Exactly.
Going
being
and
able to
accessing money.
Exactly.
And so that's another thing right there. Is like it just dawns on me.
I know people right now to this very day that is dealing with situations like that. Family members, deceased and didn't even have a will, or didn't leave the money, tied up in probate court, family fighting over it because it wasn't automatically going to whoever the significant other was because they wasn't married. So it's a real hassle. So it's a lot easier if you have stuff joint, because that can remedy a lot of that, any legal actions and stuff that can be taken.
Yeah, and then with everything being electronic banking nowadays, you got to have logins to go to the website.
Yes.
So if one partner has their bank account over, and if they're not sharing the login information, so I guess I have to assume that that they might not. Maybe a person would share their login information. I would like to think that if I was, let's just say we decided to have separate accounts or whatever, separate bank accounts that our payroll gets deposited into, I would like to think that I would have access to your information. I mean, it's a hypothetical for us, right? Because we have joint accounts, but I'm just trying to think in terms of other people who choose to go that other route. But yeah, it can present all types of problems for you.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a couple people to tell me that their spouse does not have access because they pay whatever bills, the spouse paid whatever bills, and it's completely separate. Hey, my paycheck is going over here, his is going over there, and yeah, and so I can imagine how, like, let's just say, and that's also fragmented too, because you're relying upon each other to hold up their end, to exercise their responsibility. Or there resulting problems because then stuff wasn't getting paid.
Exactly, that's what I'm thinking about. So if you get the mortgage that doesn't get paid on time because this person, they slipped up or whatever, or the car payment doesn't get paid on time or whatever, or you come in and your lights are off, your water's off because they were supposed to pay the light or water bill and they didn't.
Yep.
Whereas in a joint situation, it's just you just put it all under the responsibility of one particular individual. This is your role. Get everything set up for all the withdrawals. Everything come from a joint account, that single pot. And things get paid on time. And things are cool.
Yep.
You just kind of have I don't know. I don't know if it's a thing like with men, like if people kind of like having separate accounts too, because it allows them a bit more freedom, with their money without, their partner necessarily knowing what they're doing or whatever, whether you like to kick it to the strip club or whatever,
that could
or
be.
Maybe you got a side chick that you're breaking off or something, or maybe she got a side dude.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know.
Right.
So you kind of have a little bit more scrutiny when you have a joint account. But you just I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess you just have to become a little better with sleight of hand with the funds.
Right.
If you got something you want to do, have your little mad money.
Right.
Your little mad money stash or whatever.
But
anyway, but we go joint. We go joint on all of our bank accounts. Every automobile that we've ever owned.
Mortgage.
It's all joint. All 4 of our mortgages. And even this next one we're not taking out the mortgage for South Africa, but my point is that's a joint purchase as well. That would be a joint purchase.
Yeah.
It's always the 2 of us. Because we're stronger as a unit. Even though you do make less money than I do, but you know what? With your salary added in to mine, we look a whole lot better than we would with just me by myself.
Right.
See what I'm saying?
Yep.
So it's all good. And so but we taking all of our our automobile loans that we've had over the years, joint accounts, our brokerage accounts for investments, joint accounts. Obviously when it comes to something like an IRA, and that was something that kind of bothered me. I was like, man. And it just goes to show you how used to things you get. Because when I put that in place, and I was like, oh, you mean I can't have her name on that?
Yeah.
Or my Roth. And it was like, no, because the IRA is yours.
Yeah.
Right. Even though it's part of our brokerage accounts and stuff like that, but I even had a problem with that. Subconsciously, it didn't sit well with me.
Yeah.
Right, because I'm so used to having everything be with you
Yeah.
in a joint fashion.
Yeah.
But I mean, nevertheless, if I drop dead tomorrow, you'll still get it because you're beneficiary. So
Absolutely.
you know,
Yes.
so no worries there.
None.
But yeah, so just having the joint accounts, it does force you to have skin in the game.
Yeah.
Right.
And it forces you probably to be, to me, a little bit more transparent too. Because if you both on the accounts, you can see everything. So like you said, just a couple of examples you just referenced. If you got joint accounts, questions could be asked. Hey, where the money going?
Right.
It was this much is in the account. Now it's down here. What's going on?
Right.
So whereas with separate accounts, money could be moving in and out. You don't know.
Right. Yeah. And you if there's a $5 change in our account, you like, did you just do this? It's $15.
I'm on the phone with the bank.
Yeah, you did that. What you just did that last week?
I sure did.
What was it?
What
was I? What did I do?
I can't remember what it was because I do it so.
Oh,
often.
I know what it was. I think it was the software. One of the software subscriptions.
Oh,
that I had.
yeah.
They went up or something. I think on
Yeah.
I don't know if it was.
And one of them was with that hotel when you went. It was an extra charge or whatever. And I'm like,
yeah.
Everything has to balance out.
When
to
I
the
travel
penny,
for work.
to the penny. And then but another reason too, just with all the fraud and stuff going on, I'm like, but everything just has to be balanced out to the penny for me. I'm just very meticulous.
You check the accounts every day, don't you?
Every day. Anytime we start doing charge, I go right to make sure it came out right, exactly what's supposed to go to, everything. The checking accounts, everything has to balance out. If it's a problem, if anything, I'm immediately on the phone with the bank to, rectify the problem. I've just always been like that because I'm just very meticulous about accounts and the money and making sure that everything adds up.
Yeah, and then it goes back to also being working in banking and stuff too. I imagine to some degree. You were like that before you got into banking.
Oh yeah, I've always been like that.
Right.
Since I was a teenager. Yeah.
Right.
Because I had to make a little bit of money stretch a long ways before you came along to save me.
No, ain't nobody now. Wait a minute now. Ain't nobody save you.
Financially, well, it was rough.
Don't use that term.
But I'm just saying.
Nobody saved you.
I'm just. That's how I thought.
When you say that, I just.
I mean, that's how. I was for 18 years, so that's how I saw it.
They got that term, Captain Saver. You heard that before?
No.
Yeah, you came. I'm not going to even say that. Y'all know what it is out there.
Yeah.
I am not that dude.
Yeah.
I was just a young dude.
I was 18. But that's how I looked at when I was 18.
Right. But, look at us now, right?
Yes.
But she didn't need saving. She was a good girl from the very beginning. But anyway. So along with that, rolled up into all that is just you have to really trust the person. Trust, and you have to be responsible.
Yeah.
And fortunately, you were that person, and I've always had total trust in you when it comes to our finances, because you have never failed us all of these years, and that's a great thing that you, because I think I could do it, if I needed to, but I'm not as good as you are at it, and I don't really care to do it because. And I think it goes back to the early beginnings with us. Money kind of causes me stress.
Yeah. Because you started out doing it in the very beginning. You started out doing it, but then I took it over because I wanted to do things a certain way and get stuff paid off. And you was, let me just send this amount. No, let's just get it all. Yeah, so that's when I end up taking it over. You was just like, because you was like, this is stressing me out.
And I don't necessarily see what you see. It's just like a couple weeks ago, I think it was. We were talking about doing. I think it was with the car or something. Yeah. We were talking about how we wanted to approach that whole thing and how we wanted to deploy that money. Yeah. From the sale of that vehicle and stuff like that, and then. I had my ideas about it, but then when you kind of spoke up about it, I ultimately ended up going your route because it made sense, even though in the short term, I kind of prefer something different But in the long term, again, goes back to that sprint and marathon kind of thing, like we talked about. You know, the big picture that you have about things, I guess it works.
Yeah.
So that just goes back to that trust. I'm trusting in you
Yeah.
to keep us straight, you know,
Right.
like you always have. And, you know, fortunately, your track record says that.
And
you
another
will.
thing I think to look at with the separate or joint is, you know, as far as ultimately what are your goals, long-term goals, because that can actually come in, you know, come into play as well. Like you said, I think long-term with respect to finances. I'm thinking 5+ years down the road, you know. So what do I want to see us at financially 5 years? What can we get rid of? You know, what can we pay off? You know, what is it? What's the next thing that we're trying to do from a financial perspective? So I'm always thinking along those lines. So that's always what my mindset is. And doing something joint or separate can impact that, because it comes down to both of you kind of being on the same page regarding what those goals are. So that's another thing that you may have to take into consideration, you know, if you're both on the same page as far as long-term goals, financially speaking.
Yeah. So, you know, and so that you know, that speaks to selflessness, right? You know, which I guess that's kind of been a theme. I mean, you can't operate within this framework if you're a selfish type person. You know, if you're just all about me,
Right.
you know, you're concerned about how, you know, how fly you can look, or how, you know, how much of a good time you want to have in life all the time, then I guess you know, it wouldn't work for you.
Yeah.
You know, and that's not to say that because people have separate accounts that they're selfish. I'm not. That's not.
Right.
That's not my intent to convey that type of message. But I'm just saying, doing this requires a selfless mindset.
Yeah.
Because you're twisting up your funds with the next individual, and you have to be able to, no matter what side of that fence you're standing on, if you're the one over up here, or if you're the one here, you have to be okay with saying, okay, we're putting all of our stuff together, and it doesn't matter that, you know, she's pulling down more than I am, or I'm pulling down more than her at this time, because it can flip. I mean, you can have times, depending upon what y'all do, you know, you may be up some years, you know, and then other years you might be down and she might be up.
Right. Yeah.
You know, so it could go either way. You know, that's nothing preventing anybody from losing a job at any given time or becoming disabled. You know, so you just have to keep that into perspective, and not, you know, not allow yourself to be swept up in that whole thing that, you know, I'm pulling this down, so, you know, I carry a bit more weight in this scenario. No, it's joint, and joint means joint.
That's
You
why.
know, it
That's
means
why
you
I think
have
it comes
equal-
back to the goals.
Right.
What are the goals? What goals do you have as a couple, whether you're married or not? If you're just in a relationship with someone, because you don't even necessarily have to be married to them, but just being in a relationship with them, what ultimately are your goals? Because if both of you are on the same page as we are regarding goals, now some goals, you know, may differ, but for the big goals, if you're on the same page, that's where all of that's going to come into play. So if your goals are not the same, then that's when you're going to start having problems. That's just me, in my opinion, how I see it. But again, do what works best for you, but just giving you some food for thought for some things to think about.
Yeah. So, you know, I think some of the positive results that we've seen, you know, from adopting the approach that we have, I think we've seen it reflected in our credit rating.
Yep.
Right? Because we've always operated the way that we have. You know, we've always been able to maintain a credit rating
Oh yeah.
above 700.
Oh,
A FICO.
800.
Huh?
Oh, 800.
No, but I'm saying,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we
Oh yeah.
from the time that we
Oh
got
yeah.
together,
Oh yeah.
and you know, once we got, I think even early on, even with the credit, because we were paying them on time.
Yes.
We put everything in place.
Always paid on time.
Always paid on time.
Yes.
We didn't miss payments and stuff like that.
You struggle.
Yeah,
the beginning.
it was a struggle,
But
you know.
it
But
was done.
we've always paid our debts on time, and so we've always been able to maintain, you know, a high credit rating
Yeah.
from a very young age.
Yes.
You know, so that has that has shown itself to be such a blessing to us in many ways at
Yes.
various times
Yes.
when we were trying to do stuff. And
Yeah.
you know, I know we'll talk more about that in future episodes of how we've been able to leverage you know, our credit rating,
Yeah.
you know, to get things done without a problem, that type of stuff.
And again, tying that back to the separate or joint, that can come into play, because if you're in a relationship with someone and maybe one person's credit is okay, but the other person's credit may be
Not so
excellent. If you're together,
got it,
you know
got
what
it.
I'm saying,
Yeah.
then that can kind of help offset the person's
Absolutely.
credit that may not be as favorable, that can either get you that loan or get you a better interest rate.
Right.
So that's something else to consider as well.
Yeah, and so having that joint account, it just it presents you better. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, this is a business entity. This is a single entity. Even though this person may have this here,
Right.
yeah, but you know, they got, you know, this is their financial picture. You know, so it's less fragmented. It's less work, I guess.
Yeah.
For outside entities to do to determine your credit worthiness, if you will, or whatever.
Especially when it comes down to securing loans.
Right.
I mean, it's always better when it's just two people, because then they can look at the entire picture. Whereas if it's just one person, maybe you don't even get the loan. But then if you're together with the significant other or the spouse, maybe now you can get it. We've seen that to happen too.
Yeah. So we've been able to, in a joint fashion, we've been able to secure, up to this point, 4 homes, right? We're on our 4th home. So each one, like I said, each one of those mortgages, we were joint.
Yep.
It went in every time in a joint fashion. Although I think we were on the mortgage on our house in the previous county before we bought this one. I remember in the beginning, I was the only one on the title. I think it was.
It was either the title or
the deed. I was the only one on the deed.
Always been
I was the first one on the.
mortgage.
I was the only one on the deed, but we were on the mortgage together. There was some reason they had to put me as a single person on the deed, but then I don't know if we ever got it changed.
I think at the time, I don't know if I was working at the time, and that could have been what it was.
Okay,
I
yeah,
think that's
because
when I was back in school.
Yeah, that might have been it. Okay. A huge thing, I think a huge benefit that we've seen from our approach is ease of access to capital.
Yes.
And I just kind of alluded to that a minute ago.
Yes.
And, and I think that has been absolutely key over our 30 plus years, because what that has done for us is that it's given us added security, because we have, and there's only one time that I can recall over our 30 something years that we needed to rely upon someone outside of ourselves. And that was when I got ill at 35. And it was when I had switched jobs, and it was a temporary condition. You might remember when I switched jobs and I had gotten ill, and I needed to be able to cover that. I needed to be able to cover the insurance, the money that was going to cost for the insurance, because of the way the deductibles worked or something like that. And I had only been on the job like maybe 30 days or something before I had really got sick.
Right.
And so none of my stuff had even kicked in yet. So I didn't have the benefits, and I had taken like probably about a I think it was either a $21,000 or $24,000 annual pay cut. I think it was. I think I took to go to work on that new job. And so that was the only time that we've ever had to receive anything from outside of our own home. And then at that time you were also not working.
Yeah, I was in school.
You were.
That's
in school.
when I went back.
Exactly.
Oh, you went to church. Oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Yep. And the church.
Yeah.
helped
That's
us
right.
out.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. I
And of course,
remember.
we gave back.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then some.
Yeah.
Which I felt compelled to do that because it was the one time in our entire 30-something years that we had to rely upon
Yeah.
any type of help like that.
Yeah. From anyone.
Well,
Yeah.
that's not counting. That's not counting. We'll talk about this maybe. But when I was in the military, like the first when we were pregnant with first kid, you remember how things were back then.
Oh, yeah.
Being in the military. But
oh, yeah.
but but that was the only time. And so
Yeah.
Positioning ourselves the way that we have, we've never had to rely upon people.
Right.
We've never had to go to anybody and say, hey, can you lend me blah 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 blah.
Right.
I'm down or whatever, because we've always had access to capital.
Yeah.
And that makes a big, huge difference, especially once you get to a certain point in life where things are a little bit more, you have a lot more at stake and you have a lot more things in play, like, homes and stuff like that.
But not only having the access to the capital, but ensuring that we handle our finances appropriately.
Right.
Because that, because though you can have access to capital, but if you're not paying your liabilities and all of that, it all means nothing.
Right. Right.
So,
but I just think that that's huge
yeah.
because you can't rely upon people.
No.
See, I mean, and I straight up say this. We've never had anybody that we can fall back on.
No.
Never.
Mm-mm.
We just haven't.
Mm-mm.
We have. Well, I'll take that kind of back. I mean, we do, but we don't.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We've never really had. I don't know if that's the best way to put it. But no, I'll just say we just had to really rely upon ourselves. Especially, let's just say, where we are at this stage in our lives, there's very few places that we could look. If we fail hard or whatever, we really don't have too many places we can
If
look.
we needed somebody to pay our mortgage for 1 month.
Yeah.
That's how many people can we call?
Right.
That can come through.
Right. Or that would be willing to come through.
Yeah.
Because
that
a
too.
lot of times you have people that might be able to.
Right.
They may be positioned or whatever, but they're not necessarily willing.
Right.
And so that's just one of those variables that's always there that you can't account for. So you don't.
I'll be adamant about making sure I handle business financially, for us, so that we, God willing, not have to be put into the position to have to do that.
Right.
So that's why I be real anal, about the finances and stuff. Because I'm like, I just don't want us to be in that position to have to do that, because I know and understand that going in.
Right. Yeah. And when you grow up like that.
Right.
And we both grew up like that.
That's our background.
Man,
I didn't have nothing.
I saw it so much, and we still see it.
Yeah.
But coming up, see, like right now, we sit where we sit.
Right.
And so I have my own life, right?
Right.
But when you are a kid coming up and you're subject to, that type of dynamic, whereas like you're looking for this, or you need this as a young person, as a kid, but you can't make it happen.
Right.
Because it's just not there.
Right.
And, your people has to rely upon the next person who may flake out, may not be able to be there, and now you just kind of left out in the cold. So that always plays in the back of my mind, as well, and that's always a motivating factor for me throughout my entire life. I never want to be that person, or never want to subject those who I'm responsible for, to that. So, but I'm glad that we've been able to have that good fortune with those foundations that we laid in, just kind of moving as a unit, as a joint unit in all that we do from a financial perspective.
Yeah.
It's worked for us.
It's definitely worked for us. Made life a lot easier.
Yeah. So
because I know we both know what it's like to try to even when we started dating, I mean, I had the debt before I even got with you. So, I mean, I sort of know what it's like to try to do it on my own, and it wasn't working. I mean, I was able to make it, but let me say this, it was extremely difficult. And that, just going back to the point I made when I was saying that, when you came in and you was helping me or whatever, because I was trying to, and it was overwhelming to me.
Right.
Because I saw myself drowning in debt. And I'm like, how am I going to get out of this?
You weren't gonna get out of it.
So,
You got out of it, but you weren't gonna get out of it
alone.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying. It was extremely difficult and
Not off
stressful.
that 157 a month.
154.
154.
154.
General assistance.
Yes. Yes. So yes.
Those were the days.
Those were the days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. $154, man.
And I was having to try to make that stretch. And I was having to buy tokens. And I had a curl.
Bus tokens. And
Bus
you had a curl.
A Wave Nouveau. I was rocking a Wave Nouveau back then.
Oh, man.
And I was having the nerve trying to get my nails done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to make that little $154 go a long ways.
Wow. Okay. Well, you got $154 now.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But yeah, so I mean, that's I think that's about it, man. For this for this episode of Separate a Joint.
Yeah.
Again, I to each their own.
Yeah.
And for some people it
may work.
may make sense, for those reasons stated.
Yeah.
I just think that I'm doesn't matter what I think.
Right.
I'm thankful that for our particular situation that we've been able to make it work, and it's been a relatively painless thing, but I think it all goes back to the idea of just being on the same page.
Right.
And just making a commitment to move a certain way from a business perspective, to make sure that you're going to be straight. And I think coming from what we came from, we kind of have something to reference, to know what we don't, or what we don't want to end up.
For sure.
So it works, and I'm just grateful. And so hopefully we'll just continue to to continue to move forward in the manner that we have. Maybe hopefully we won't add any. I don't think we need to add any more. Oh, you know what? We may need to add, well, we might be able to repurpose one of our accounts once I start actually getting some real estate deals. But we may have to add one more account to deposit my real estate commission checks.
We shall see.
But I can't wait for this market to pick back up, man.
Yes, me too.
But right, it's a racket, all the money they hit you up for just for being a licensed professional, man. I tell you, that's a whole nother thing. So let's look to the next episode at this point,
which is
because we're done with this one. It'll kind of, I think so far we've kind of strung things together. I tell you what, man, drinking this tea, man, it kind of make your throat all juicy and stuff, man. I've been swallowing and stuff, like people, they can probably hear it on the microphone and everything. But we've been pretty good about kind of tying things together. I think it's because the show is new and we kind of got things planned out with a logical flow. So we'll see if we can keep that going.
Yes.
But I think next week we'll talk about struggle and sacrifice. And we can tie that back into what we talked about today in some of the previous episodes.
Yeah, because it'll all tie in.
Yeah, and of course that goes beyond that. We all struggle. Struggle can show itself in many forms.
Oh yes.
Whether you're a married couple or whether you're single or whatever, if you're in a relationship with somebody or whatever, it'll show itself certain ways, and so we have to figure out ways to push through, and we've had to push through many over the years, and so we can share some of that, our perspectives on that whole thing, and so but until then, it's another one down, and I can get ready and put some food in my belly here in a second. I'm a little bit hungry.
Oh.
But but it's been cool though. So
yes.
Another one down. I feel a little bit more chill this time. And again, I think it's because of the lights. I think it's this amber light theme.
Oh. Okay.
We might have to revisit it.
Yeah.
And kind of matches my shirt
goodness.
here. Kind of representing for the Black Man Lab here.
Yes.
And so but we go ahead and wrap this up. And
Again, like, subscribe,
man,
share,
I keep forgetting
comment.
that. I keep forgetting that. Yeah, like, subscribe, share, comment.
Drop in the
Ah,
comments
God.
if you're doing separate or joint. Do you
Yeah.
agree, disagree? You
Yep,
know,
yep.
pros and cons to it.
Yeah, feel free to comment. So
Yeah.
we always appreciate that. And again, you know, what worked for us may not necessarily work for the next person. We
Right.
stand in judgment of nobody.
Right.
We just kind of sharing our perspective on things.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and get out of here. And as we always like to say, at the end of the day, it's just
Mel,
and me, and this has been
the podcast.
Y'all take it easy. See
Holla.
y'all later. You do this holla thing all the time. All right.